You know, usually when we talk about a man passing away, the immediate reaction you expect from his closest friends is like grief.
Right, moment of silence or something.
Exactly. A reflection on a life well lived. But picture this scene instead. A man dies, and the very first thing his closest work associates do when they hear the news is calculate who gets his salary.
Which is just so cold.
Right, and they quietly panic over whether the funeral schedule is going to make them late for their evening card game.
It completely shatters the baseline expectation of human empathy. I mean, we are immediately confronted with this void where compassion should be.
Yeah, and that void is exactly where we are starting today's deep dive.
It's a heavy one today.
It is. We are exploring a really profound, unsettling, and just illuminating text. Leo Tolstoy's novella, The Death of Ivan Ilyich.
Specifically, the translation by Elmer and Louise Maud, right?
Yes, that's the one. And since we're diving into this with the understanding that we all kind of know the general trajectory of the story, our goal isn't to just give you a plot summary.
No, we don't need to rehash the basic beats.
Right. We are here to do a forensic examination of the psychology within these pages. We are looking at a man who did everything, quote unquote, right, according to the rules of his society.
Only to realize at the very end that he got the fundamental premise of his existence completely wrong.
Yeah. So our mission today is to help you understand the central paradox of this text.
We're going to look really closely at why a perfectly ordinary, successful life is described as a terrible tragedy.
And more importantly, how confronting mortality like, really looking it in the eye without blinking forces every single one of us to evaluate our own authenticity.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's unpack this. To understand the tragedy of Ivan's life, we actually have to examine the ecosystem he leaves behind first.
Right. Starting at the end.
Yeah, the immediate aftermath of his death at age 45 is just incredibly revealing.
It really exposes the hollow foundation of the world he spent decades trying to impress.
Definitely. I mean, when we meet his colleagues, Peter Ivanovich and Fyodor Vasilievich, at the law courts, their internal monologues upon reading his obituary instantly shift to administrative benefits.
It's immediate.
Right. Fyodor starts calculating an extra 800 rubles a year in promotions.
And Peter starts plotting how to leverage this death to get his brother-in-law transferred to their circuit.
Purely so his wife will stop complaining.
Exactly. And that administrative coldness is amplified by Schwartz, another colleague at the wake.
Oh, Schwartz is the worst.
He really is. He is standing at the funeral with this playful twist of his eyebrows, actively annoyed because the morning rituals threaten to ruin their evening bridge game.
Unbelievable.
He's silently communicating across the room, trying to coordinate where they'll play cards, while the body is literally in the next room.
It functions like a macabre networking event. They are treating death as an administrative inconvenience.
A hurdle to jump over so they can get back to their trivial comforts.
Exactly. And the scene where Peter Ivanovich visits the widow, Praskovya Fedorovna, perfectly encapsulates this. It's darkly hilarious.
Oh, the scene with the poof.
Yes. They go into this drawing room, upholstered in pink cretonne, and Peter sits on this low poof, and the springs basically rebel against him.
They're just pushing him back up.
Right. He's trying to manufacture this solemn, grease-stricken posture, but the widow's black lace shawl keeps catching on the carved edge of the table.
And the poof is creaking and popping up every time he shifts his weight.
It's this literal and figurative struggle to maintain a veneer of decorum.
And Tolstoy uses that awkward physical comedy to expose the absolute falsity of the entire interaction.
It's a brilliant metaphor for the friction of high society.
It really is. Because the widow, Praskovya, she feigns deep grief, pressing a clean cambric handkerchief to her eyes, but within moments, the mask slips.
Just completely drops.
Yeah, she seamlessly pivots to interrogating Peter, wanting to know down to the minutest detail how to extract a larger government pension out of her husband's death.
She actually tells him she considers it an affectation to let her grief prevent her from attending to practical affairs.
Wow.
She weaponizes the language of practicality to mask her greed.
It's chilling. Everyone in that drawing room is merely fulfilling what the text calls the tiresome demands of propriety.
Right, an intricate dance of social obligation masking total apathy.
But underneath that apathy is a shared, secret psychological defense mechanism running through the minds of everyone in attendance.
Oh, this is the best part.
They all look at the dead body and think, well, he's dead, but I'm alive.
Yes. And that thought isn't just a fleeting observation, it's an active armor.
They view death as a highly specific accident that happened to Ivan.
Like a localized failure that surely won't infect them.
Exactly. They distance themselves from his mortality to protect their own.
So the obvious question is how a man ends up surrounded by people who view his death primarily as a pathway to government pensions and uninterrupted bridge games.
Right. How do you get there?
We have to trace back his life choices to see how the relentless pursuit of external perfection paved the way for this massive internal emptiness.
Growing up, Ivan was branded Le Phénix de la Famille, the phoenix of the family,
The golden child.
basically. Yeah. He occupied the perfect, safest middle ground. He avoided the cold formality of his older brother, and he sidestepped the reckless failures of his younger brother.
Right. He was capable, cheerful, and just impeccably polished.
And his guiding philosophical principle was simply doing what people in authority considered correct.
Just following the rules.
Exactly. Even his marriage to Praskovia wasn't born out of overwhelming passion or deep connection.
He married her because the match provided a baseline of personal satisfaction.
And, crucially, it was approved by his social circle.
It was the proper thing to do. It fit the narrative of a successful magistrate.
But the narrative always cracks when real human emotion gets involved.
Always. Like when his wife becomes pregnant, she gets irritable, jealous, and demanding.
And instead of dealing with the messiness of actual human partnership, Ivan actively retreats.
He just checks out.
Yeah, he throws himself into his official duties. He uses his job, his paperwork, and his card games to build a bureaucratic fortress against domestic friction.
He walls himself off in a separate, fenced-off world of officialdom.
And he develops this chilling capacity to separate his real messy life from his official side.
Right. He observes all the expected courtesies of society, but systematically excludes anything fresh, unpredictable, or vital that might disturb his manufactured peace.
And this obsession with a curated life becomes his literal downfall.
The very house he uses as a fortress is what betrays him.
Right, because after years of financial stress, Ivan gets a massive stroke of luck.
A new appointment with a 5,000 ruble salary.
Which was a lot. And he becomes entirely consumed with decorating their new apartment to look aristocratic.
He's buying antique bronzes, damasks, dark wood.
And the text points out the tragic irony that the apartment just ends up looking like every other moderately wealthy home of people who want to appear rich.
It's so painfully ordinary. And then he falls off a stepladder while showing an upholsterer how he wants the curtains draped.
Right, he bruises his side.
But he brushes it off entirely, boasting to his family that he feels 15 years younger.
And that bruise on his side is the catalyst for his physical decay.
Yeah.
But before we get to the illness, we really need to examine Tolstoy's most famous and perhaps most devastating line in this text.
Let's hear it.
Ivan Ilych's life had been most simple and most ordinary and therefore most terrible.
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit because I think a lot of you listening will read that and feel a bit defensive.
Oh, for sure.
Is it really so terrible to just want a nice, comfortable house with antique bronze decorations? To want a peaceful marriage without screaming matches?
It seems pretty normal.
Right. To want a respectable job and to play cards with your friends on the weekend? Isn't that basically the blueprint of the American dream, or really any modern society's definition of success?
What's fascinating here is that it's a vital question, and it points to why the text makes us so incredibly uncomfortable.
Because it hits close to home.
Exactly. Wanting comfort is not inherently evil. The terror of Ivan's life isn't the presence of antique bronzes or a good salary.
And what is it?
It's terrible because he sacrificed his inner life, his soul, for external approval. He completely prioritized propriety over actual human connection.
I see.
His life wasn't chosen, it was performed. Every choice he made was about conforming to a societal script.
So when you live entirely on the surface, when your emotional equilibrium is tied to the draping of a curtain, you have zero anchor when a real existential storm hits.
Precisely.
That makes a lot of sense. The comfort wasn't the problem. The fact that the comfort was a substitute for a personality was the problem.
Yes. And the storm definitely hits.
It does. The superficial comfort Ivan built is shattered by the lingering pain from that curtain incident.
That dull, gnawing pain in his side and this strange taste in his mouth just keep getting worse.
And here's where the narrative turns the tables brilliantly. The very systems Ivan trusted and served his whole life suddenly turn against him.
He goes to see these celebrated doctors to find out what's wrong.
And they treat him exactly the way Ivan treats accused persons in his own courtroom, with cold, formal authority.
It is a terrifying irony. The doctors debate over him as if he's an abstract puzzle.
Like, is it a floating kidney? Is it a problem with the vermiform appendix?
They become entirely absorbed in the bureaucratic puzzle of the diagnosis,
Yeah.
completely ignoring Ivan's only real desperate question.
Which is my case serious?
Exactly.
It's a karmic cross-examination. Ivan, the ultimate bureaucrat who spent his career reducing complex, messy human tragedies to neat, easily dismissible legal paperwork, is now on trial by the bureaucracy of medicine.
And he's losing.
He really is. The doctors are filing him away in their minds just as he filed away the defendants in his court.
And he tries to bargain with the illness. He becomes obsessed with the exact fulfillment of hygiene and medicine, hoping that following the rules will save him.
But nothing works. And this cognitive dissonance forces him to confront a logic problem he learned in school.
Kieswetter's logic, the Caius syllogism.
Right. Caius is a man, men are mortal, therefore Caius is mortal.
Classic.
Ivan realizes he always accepted this for the abstract Caius. It was a neat intellectual exercise.
But he cannot accept it for himself.
He literally thinks, like, I'm not Caius. I was little Vanya. I had a mother. I had toys. I had a favorite striped leather ball.
It cannot be that little Vanya has to die.
That syllogism is the crux of human denial.
It really is. We all intellectually know we are going to die, just like Caius. But we don't actually believe it in our bones.
We construct a narrative where we are the exception to the rule.
And Ivan realizes he spent his entire life erecting what the text calls screens to hide from the reality of death.
The concept of the screens is so fascinating to me.
Yeah, in Ivan's case, his screens were his legal paperwork, his pursuit of promotions, his meticulous rearranging of the drawing room furniture.
If he could just keep his mind occupied with these high-stakes trivialities, he wouldn't have to look at the void.
And if we translate that to modern psychology, we see people doing the exact same thing today.
Oh, absolutely.
We build screens through endless doom scrolling, through the glorification of being busy at work, through obsessing over the minutia of home renovations or social media metrics.
We manufacture these highly urgent artificial problems so we don't have to face the ultimate unsolvable problem of our own mortality.
But as Ivan's body fails, his screens become transparent. Death peers right through them.
He looks at his expensive polished table, sees a scratch from a bronze album, gets angry at his daughter for her untidiness.
And then the absurdity hits him.
He says, I lost my life over that curtain as I might have done when storming a fort. How terrible and how stupid.
As the medical screens and the physical screens collapse, Ivan is plunged into total emotional isolation.
He is surrounded by what feels like a massive conspiracy of silence.
His family, his wife Praskovia, his daughter Lisa, her fiancé, they all refuse to admit he is dying.
They maintain this charade that he is simply ill and just needs to follow the doctor's orders.
And the lie tortures Ivan far more than the physical pain itself.
Because it degrades his terrible, solemn act of dying to the level of an unpleasant, indecorous incident.
To his family, his dying isn't a tragedy, it's a social faux pas. It's as if someone brought a bad smell into the drawing room.
It's deeply ironic that Ivan is offended by his family's health, but later finds himself completely soothed by the health of Gerasim, his servant.
Yes.
Like when the family gets dressed up to go to the theater to see the actress Sarah Bernhardt, Ivan specifically notes his wife's plump white hands, and he's offended by Lisa exposing her fresh young flesh in her evening dress.
Their vibrant health feels like a personal insult.
It feels like the family is using their health as a weapon of denial, performing this play of normalcy in his bedroom before going to see an actual play at the theater.
Whereas Gerasim uses his health as an act of pure service.
Right. So why does this contrast matter so much?
Well, the contrast is everything. Gerasim is the butler's young assistant, this clean, fresh, cheerful peasant lad. And he's the only character who doesn't participate in the degrading performance of denial.
Gerasim acknowledges the truth of death.
Yes.
He gladly holds Ivan's emaciated legs up on his shoulders for hours at a time because the physical elevation actually eases Ivan's pain.
And Gerasim delivers one of the most grounding lines in the text.
Right, he says, we shall all of us die, so why should I grudge a little trouble?
Gerasim's strength is coupled with absolute honesty. The family uses their health to maintain the facade of a pleasant and proper life, refusing to look at the reality of decay.
While Gerasim's simple acceptance of mortality breaks through the falsity that has poisoned Ivan's entire existence,
Gerasim pities Ivan the way Ivan actually wants to be pitied, like a sick child in need of comfort, not a broken machine in need of fixing.
his honesty restores a shred of Ivan's dignity.
It's a beautiful moment.
But then, the breakdown of all these illusions, the failure of the doctors, the realization of the screens, the suffocating lie of his family, it pushes Ivan into his final, most intense agony.
The last 3 days of his life are truly harrowing.
He enters a state of continuous screaming. He screams incessantly for 3 straight days, essentially just screaming the letter O.
It's a primal reduction of a highly civilized man. The intellectual bureaucrat is stripped down to pure animalistic terror.
He enters a state of stupefied misery where he feels he's being thrust into a narrow, deep black sack by an invisible force.
But the detail that stands out is that he can't fall all the way through the sack. Something is stopping him.
And what's stopping him is his own stubbornness. Even in this agony, he is holding on to the desperate belief that his life was a good one.
He is tormented by an inner voice asking, what if my whole life has been wrong?
And he keeps fighting it. He argues back into the void, but how could that be when I did everything properly?
And the spiritual paralysis is causing the physical agony. What happens when your entire identity is built on a foundation that you suddenly realize is flawed?
It's terrifying.
Ivan's justification of his life, his belief in his own societal perfection, is the very thing holding him fast in that black sack, preventing him from moving forward into whatever comes next.
Tolstoy uses an analogy here that I think captures this existential dread perfectly.
The train one.
Yeah, he says, the sensation is exactly like sitting on a train, thinking you are moving forwards, and suddenly looking out the window and realizing you've been moving backwards the entire time.
That is so evocative.
Right. Ivan realizes his whole life, the promotions, the accumulating wealth, the meticulously managed social standing was him moving up in public opinion. But in reality, true life, vitality, and connection were rapidly ebbing away from him.
He was moving backwards. The higher he climbed in society, the closer he got to spiritual death. And the breakthrough out of the black sack only comes in his final hours, through a moment of unexpected tactile connection.
His schoolboy son, Vasya, creeps into the room. The text describes Vasya as looking just like Ivan did as a boy. He's got these terrible dark shadows under his frightened eyes.
And Ivan is in the middle of screaming and thrashing his arms, and his hand happens to fall onto his son's head.
The boy catches his father's hand, presses it to his lips, and begins to weep.
It's a tactile bridge back to humanity. In that instant, Ivan falls through the black sack and sees the light.
He finally feels pity.
Not the self-pity that has consumed him for months, but genuine pity for his son.
And then he looks at his wife, seeing her despairing look and undried tears, and he pities her too.
He realizes that his life was not what it should have been, but more importantly, he realizes that it can still be rectified in this final moment.
Right, he tries to say forgive me to his wife, but because his body is feeling so rapidly, he accidentally says forgo.
He waves his hand, knowing that whoever needs to understand will understand.
I've always thought forgo is almost a better word than forgive in this context.
Oh, absolutely. It means to let go, to relinquish.
By letting go of his self-justification, by finally relinquishing his ego's need to have been right about how he lived, the terror completely vanishes.
He searches for his fear of death and he can't find it. In place of death, there is light.
He realizes death is finished. He draws in a breath, stops in the midst of a sigh, and dies.
The resolution is just so powerful because it suggests that an authentic life isn't about grand heroic deeds or achieving historical greatness.
Right, it's about genuine connection, empathy, and abandoning the exhausting performance of societal propriety.
Exactly.
As we wrap up this deep dive, the immense value of this text for anyone listening becomes incredibly clear.
On the surface, this is a grim story about a man dying a slow, painful death.
But in reality, it isn't about dying at all. It is a radical, uncompromising wake-up call about living.
It forces you to look in the mirror and ask, am I living for the approval of others?
Am I just playing a role, following the accepted decorum of my industry, my social circle, my family?
Or am I living an authentic life? The text warns us about the supreme danger of letting our lives be dictated by external metrics of success.
Right, the job promotions, the aesthetically perfect apartment, the strategic social connections. If those are the only pillars holding up your life, the entire foundation will crumble the moment you are forced to face something real.
Something that can't be filed away or decorated over.
Exactly. So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today, taking what we've discussed and applying it to the modern world. Throughout this story, Ivan's prized possessions, the antique clocks, the expensive Morocco leather on the sofa, and those fatal curtains, they ended up owning him far more than he ever owned them.
He literally sacrificed his life force to maintain them.
Look around your own space today. Look at your calendar, your goals, your daily stressors. If the chaos syllogism came true for you tomorrow and the screen suddenly fell away, which of the curtains in your life, the corporate job titles, the arguments over petty slights, the perfectly curated social media image, would you immediately realize you've been sacrificing your actual life to maintain?
What are you holding on to right now that is keeping you trapped in the black sack?
Something to think about.